What's up, Suplex Rumble family? Bron Breakker just caught his mystery attacker red-handed backstage, and what happened next was absolutely insane. If you thought you'd seen Breakker unleash his power before, you haven't seen anything yet. Let's break this down. Welcome back to Suplex Rumble, where we bring you the most electrifying moments in professional wrestling. I'm your host, and today we're diving deep into one of the most explosive backstage confrontations of 2026. Before we get started, smash the like button, hit subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you never miss a moment of the action. Now, let's get into it. Alright, Rumble family, to fully appreciate what went down, we need to rewind and understand the story that's been building for weeks. Bron Breakker, the second-generation powerhouse and one of the most dominant forces in wrestling today, has been on an absolute tear throughout early 2026. But here's where things got personal. For the past several weeks, someone has been targeting Breakker in the most calculated way possible. We're talking about ambush attacks after matches, sabotaged equipment, and psychological warfare designed to get inside the head of this absolute specimen of an athlete. The attacks were strategic, they were brutal, and most importantly, they were anonymous. Week after week, Breakker would be left standing in the wreckage, his music still playing, the crowd on their feet, but no sign of who was behind these calculated assaults. The mystery attacker struck at the perfect moments when security was spread thin, when cameras weren't rolling, when Breakker was most vulnerable. What made this storyline so compelling was watching Breakker's transformation. This is a man who built his reputation on raw power and unbridled intensity. But these attacks forced him to become something more cerebral, more calculated. You could see it in his promos, the way he started studying footage, the way he began setting traps and changing his routines. The wrestling world was buzzing with theories. Social media was absolutely on fire with speculation. Was it a former rival seeking revenge? A jealous up-and-comer trying to make a name? Or perhaps someone from Breakker's own past coming back to settle an old score? The possibilities were endless, and that's what made every single week must-see content. Now, what separated this angle from typical mystery attacker storylines was Breakker's approach to solving it. Instead of just cutting angry promos demanding his attacker show themselves, Breakker actually did the detective work. And wrestling fans love when storylines treat the audience with intelligence. In recent weeks, we saw Breakker reviewing security footage, interviewing backstage personnel, and even enlisting the help of other wrestlers who had been victims of similar attacks in the past. He was building a profile, narrowing down the list of suspects based on fighting style, timing, and opportunity. There were false leads that took us down rabbit holes. There was that moment 2 weeks ago when everyone thought it might be a returning legend, only for that theory to be completely demolished. Then there was the red herring involving a disgruntled tag team partner situation that had the entire wrestling community convinced they had it figured out. But Breakker kept his cards close to his chest. In interviews, he would drop little hints that he was getting closer, that the pieces were falling into place. You could see the intensity building in his eyes, the trademark Steiner intensity that runs in his family's DNA. He wasn't just looking for his attacker anymore, he was hunting them. The tension reached a fever pitch when Breakker announced he was going to personally patrol the backstage area, essentially daring his mystery assailant to strike again. And that's exactly what set the stage for what happened next. So here's where everything exploded, Rumble family, and I mean exploded. During a recent episode, Breakker had just finished addressing the crowd, making it crystal clear that he was done playing games. He headed backstage with a purpose, and you could feel something major was about to go down. According to multiple reports from those in attendance and based on what we've pieced together from various sources, Breakker was making his way through the backstage area when he noticed something unusual near the equipment storage area. This is where his instincts, honed from years in this business and growing up in a wrestling family, kicked in. Instead of walking into a potential ambush, Breakker circled around, using his knowledge of the arena layout to his advantage. And that's when he saw them. His mystery attacker, lurking in the shadows, preparing to strike once again. But this time, they had no idea Breakker had turned the tables. What happened next can only be described as Breakker unleashing every ounce of frustration, every bit of pent-up aggression from weeks of being targeted. We're talking about a physical confrontation that showcased exactly why Bron Breakker is considered one of the most explosive athletes in professional wrestling today. The backstage area erupted into chaos. Road cases were sent flying. Equipment was scattered everywhere. Crew members scrambled to get out of the way as these two competitors went at it with an intensity rarely seen outside of a sanctioned match. This wasn't a wrestling match with rules and referees, this was pure, unfiltered combat driven by weeks of storytelling. Breakker demonstrated his incredible strength, utilizing that signature power game that has made him such a dominant force. We're talking about devastating slams on the concrete floor, powerful strikes that echoed through the corridor, and that relentless aggression that makes Breakker so dangerous when he's fully unleashed. Security personnel and other wrestlers rushed to the scene, but the damage was already done. Breakker had sent an unmistakable message: the games were over, and there would be serious consequences for anyone who thought they could target him without facing his wrath. The entire sequence reportedly lasted several minutes, but it felt like an eternity for those watching. This was the payoff the audience had been waiting for, the moment when the hunter became the hunted, when justice was served in the most brutal way possible. Now, Rumble family, I know what you're all dying to know: who was the mystery attacker? And the reveal absolutely delivered on the weeks of build-up. When Breakker finally pulled back and the attacker's identity was revealed, the wrestling world collectively lost their minds. The person behind the attacks was someone who had their own legitimate grievances, their own reasons for targeting Breakker that actually made sense within the context of ongoing storylines. What made this reveal work so brilliantly was that it wasn't just a random shock for shock's sake. Looking back at all the clues, all the patterns of when and how the attacks occurred, it actually made perfect sense. The wrestling community loves when they can look back and say, oh wow, the signs were there all along. The confrontation didn't end with just the identity reveal either. There was a verbal exchange, a heated back and forth where motivations were explained, where the attacker justified their actions, and where Breakker made it absolutely clear that this was far from over. This wasn't the end of the story, it was the beginning of a new, even more personal chapter. The intensity of the moment, the raw emotion from both competitors, and the implications for future matchups made this one of the most talked about segments in wrestling this year. Social media immediately exploded with reactions, and the wrestling community is still dissecting every moment. Let's talk about why this angle has been so successful and what it means moving forward. First off, this is exactly the kind of long-term storytelling that wrestling fans crave. We're not talking about something that was rushed or thrown together at the last minute. This was weeks of careful planning, consistent characterization, and payoff that felt earned. Bron Breakker's star continues to rise with performances like this. He's shown he can carry a complex storyline, deliver both physically and on the microphone, and maintain audience investment over an extended period. These are the qualities that separate good wrestlers from true main event players. For his now revealed attacker, this confrontation establishes them as a legitimate threat. They've proven they can get under Breakker's skin, they've shown they're willing to do whatever it takes, and they've essentially written themselves into a major program with one of the company's top stars. The immediate question on everyone's mind is, where does this feud go from here? We're likely looking at a highly personal rivalry that could main event major shows. The backstage brawl was just the appetizer, the real meal is still to come when these two finally meet in a sanctioned match environment. There's also the question of whether this was a solo operation or if there are others involved. Wrestling angles often have layers, and it wouldn't be surprising if additional twists and turns emerge in the coming weeks. Could there be someone pulling the strings from behind the scenes? Are we looking at the formation of a faction designed specifically to take down Breakker? From a storytelling perspective, this also opens up opportunities for Breakker to show different dimensions of his character. We might see him struggle with the desire for revenge versus the need to stay professional. We might see him recruit allies of his own. The possibilities are endless, and that's what makes great wrestling. Suplex Rumble family, this backstage confrontation between Bron Breakker and his mystery attacker is exactly why we love professional wrestling. It's the perfect blend of physical intensity, compelling storytelling, and emotional investment that keeps us coming back week after week. Bron Breakker has once again proven why he's one of the most exciting performers in the business today. His ability to convey intensity, deliver in high-pressure moments, and carry a storyline from start to finish is exactly what the wrestling world needs. And his attacker has established themselves as a major player in what promises to be one of the hottest feuds of 2026. But I want to hear from you. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Were you surprised by the identity of the mystery attacker? What match stipulation do you want to see when these two finally collide in the ring?